Hello, and thank you very much for tuning in to the podcast series by the New Silk Road Project. I'm your host today, Charles Stevens, the founder of the New Silk Road Project. This series is dedicated to understanding and raising awareness of one of the most important development strategies of the 21st century, China's Belt and Road Initiative. The centerpiece of the New Silk Road Project, an initiative supported by Jeep, CSIS, Magellan Capital, the University of St Andrews and Shira, was to travel the course of the Silk Road economic belt from London to Yiwu in eastern China, interviewing the key actors and academics along its course. We will have to apologise in advance for some of the tangential moments in this podcast series, and also the variable quality of audio footage. We do hope this series sheds important light into China's growing global presence and the significant changes taking place across Eurasia. Eugene Seah is the COO of Baku port at Alat. Here we talked about his vision for the wider infrastructure integration and growing economic connectivity to previously inaccessible regions, but also the importance of greening the Silk Road and what Alat Port is helping to do to achieve this. It is also important to note that Alat Port is a project not initiated by the Belt and Road Initiative, but is pushing in the same direction, in creating new trade links across Eurasia.
I'm from Singapore, and I work in the industry for about 25 years, both in PSA Corporation and Jurong Port. PSA is a container port. I move on to Jurong Port, which is a multi-purpose port, and my last position held was Vice President Commercial and Operations at Jurong Port.
And from your previous role at Jurong Port, what operational experience and methods, if any, have you brought to the Port of Baku?
Well, to answer that, I have to tell you a bit more about myself.
I'd love to hear.
Okay. When I started in PSA, we went through the rudiments of planning a vessel, planning for the operations, going through detailed procedures of how to achieve optimal productivity for every kind of vessel that calls to the port. And with this, we need the correct systems in place, and more importantly, we need the correct people to man the systems. That was what I was taught. And also, I was exposed to project planning because PSA had many ports all over the world. We went through the greenfield planning, brownfield planning. We checked through all the parameters to be of the highest international standards. And that really helped me in my future career, even in Jurong Port, when we started the container terminal. And then we moved on to multi-purpose terminal, bulk, cement, general cargo operations, and so forth. Right? So with this wide array of experiences that I have, and to come to Azerbaijan was really very valuable for me. Right? This means that I have to actually use my experience to customize the operations to the unique characteristics of what we have in Baku. Because Baku, similar to Jurong Port, we have a multi-purpose port. But unique to it is that we have the ferry systems, we have the ro-ro systems, we have the general cargo vessels. In future, we even have dedicated container vessels, all in the same port. So this requires the interplay of the various systems, and which makes it even in a way more difficult because you need to have seamless transfer of cargo between the systems. And to train the people to manage these systems takes some time, which is the most important, I think, in my boss's mind, Dr. Taleh, is to have the correct people manning the systems. And that is part of my big job here, to put the people in the right place, equip them with the necessary skills and mindsets to do their job effectively.
It's a very important role.
Yeah.
And of course you have a lot of experience behind you from Singapore. Has this experience in East Asia facilitated closer links between ports in this region and Singapore, or is that something that you've been looking at?
Well, that's in the process, very much so. One of it is because of the distance, right? We are actually closer to EU, because of the European assistance scheme that is being in place now. But we do know the standards that are being practiced in international ports like PSA and in Asia, and we adopt this to us, to work for us. Right? And during the IAPH conference, we have participants from Asia also coming in, sharing their ideas to us, and all this helps to build up the capability of our port.
You mentioned briefly facilitating links with ports in Italy. Are you happy to expand on some of the work you're doing there?
Yeah, in Italy, we have an Italian company working for us, DBA, to do our software for the port management information systems. And then we do visit the ports there that has this software so that we know what we are getting actually. It's not just something on paper, but actually works for us. Yeah.
And considering we're at your new port at Alat, would you be able to elaborate on some of the technical and operational advantages which this port has over your old facility?
Well, to start off, if you look at where we are on the Silk Road, right, and where Alat is positioned on this Silk Road, right? If you talk about Northern Corridor, Southern Corridor, and the Central Corridor depicted by the different colors there, you would know that you need to have a very efficient port, right? It's not necessary that a geographical location, but you don't turn it into advantage, then it doesn't work for you. So in Alat, we would have the most modern type of equipment which we have from Germany. These are the adult cranes with energy-saving devices because we want to brand ourselves as a green port as well, right? And also we have in place, the design of the port was by Royal Haskoning, a renowned Dutch company known for its port engineering works around the world. So this is very important because the design itself will mean the foundation of good operation processes. And this is what we are very happy to have this design work for us in this multi-modal setting. Right.
And of course, you sit in many ways as a geographical pivot, not just between east and west, but also north and south. And the Astara Rail Bridge is something which is looking to facilitate this north-south corridor and growth in the future between markets in India and also in the Baltic region and Russia. Which area do you see as a most important long-term growth arena? This east-west axis or the north-south axis?
Well, to put that into perspective, then you have to look at where it starts and where it ends. Okay, east, west, north, south. Actually, if you look on the modern Silk Road, right, it all started with the 21st century maritime Silk Road, right? And then people look at this and say, hey, look, there are alternatives on the land route to connect to the maritime Silk Road. So to answer the question, it very much depends on where you're exporting to and what are the products that you're exporting to the region. The maritime Silk Road will cater for big cargo volumes in the future when the land route takes off to be not so time sensitive, right? Because on the land route, we can cut down by half the voyage or the transit time from the eastern corridors of China, where the manufacturing hubs are now it's going towards the inner regions because of the higher cost of manufacturing and connecting to Europe, right? Because time saved means money, right? You're talking about supply chain logistics, right? And you're talking about research development. You're talking about the whole enterprise of an industry. What it means that if you have your research development ahead of others, 2 or 3 weeks ahead of others, and you make use of this time saving, you actually capture a bigger market share, and you move on to greater research and development. So this is actually, in the competitors' eyes, something that they can take competitive advantage of if they look at the whole maritime Silk Road and the Silk Road economic belt on the Eurasian corridor, right? So there's no quantitative answer to your question, right? I'm just explaining to you the concepts of how people can make use of these Silk Roads to amplify their own business potential in the markets.
And development of these transportation corridors for Azerbaijan is key to the diversification of non-oil sectors. How important is the port of Baku at Alat for this diversification?
I think it's the most important thing that ever happened to Azerbaijan as a whole. But to put it in context, whether it is important as compared to agriculture or important compared in other sectors, I would like to take it as a project integrated even to the rest. Because as a port, you handle all kinds of cargo, okay, all kinds of cargo coming in. And our free trade zone allows manufacturing industries to come in, to set up shop, to supply to the region, right? And you can have even agricultural produce coming from other countries to come in here, and we can redistribute it out in the free trade zone, right? And if Azerbaijan being an oil producing country, it will have the need for technologies, newer technologies, new innovative ways of extracting oil from the ground, right? And when the oil is extracted out, then you're left with other areas of energy to take advantage of. Your gas, I don't know whether there's shale oil, and all these companies here can not only put their centers of hub innovations in the free trade zone to serve Azerbaijan, but to the region as well. And we are thinking of even to expand it further to set up centers of excellence within the zone, right? To serve all these various industries that will be the growth of the new diversification economy in Azerbaijan.
And of course, your facility allows diversification in sort of light manufacturing and transportation networks, but it doesn't in tourism or agriculture. Do you think that these areas, these latter areas that I've highlighted, are more important to Azerbaijan's long-term economic growth, or is it the ones that are associated with Alat?
I think it will go hand in hand. If you take Dubai, for example, Dubai has got free trade zones, Jebel Ali free trade zone. Its tourism industry is also very well, set up, right? They have lots of tourism. And what makes it important, they have a great bazaar in Dubai, where they open up to Chinese companies now to trade in, and that attracts tourists to Dubai and to buy Middle Eastern products and bring it back to China, instead of them going straight, Middle Eastern traders going to China to buy it, right? So in this setting here, the free trade zone will actually attract tourism also, similar to Dubai. So it goes hand in hand, the development. Singapore as a country, 786 square kilometers, right? It's one big free trade zone. And we have many tourist attractions between that one. So the trading of goods will produce services that people will come in to buy, and that will spout in more hotel developments, more recreation centers to support the people working in those industries. So it has a knock-on effect also.
And you've explained very eloquently how Alat can capture economic value, but how can it also capture societal value?
Well, in a society you need prosperity, right? If people are poor, you solve the poorest problems first, the most problems, and people will not go higher up, to become good citizens. If you have a setting where people have a good job, they are prosperous, and then you have civilization, Otherwise, you just be like countries, like they are torn in war, torn in disease, without government structure. Here in Azerbaijan, we have a strong government, relatively, right? Stable economy, stable political climate, right? So that already is a good foundation to attract free foreign direct investments into the zone, right? And recently, we had the laws signed by the President for the Special Economic Zone. That is a basis to start looking at the detailed policies and procedures of how a company would want to come in and invest in the free trade zone.
And I can see how this special economic zone provides huge benefits for international companies, for manufacturers and companies based in Baku, but what can it do for the region surrounding Baku and in Azerbaijan?
Well, it's a huge, if you look at the addressable market here, right, between China and between Europe and the One Belt, One Route countries, right? You're talking about between Europe and China is more than 500 billion in the market, right? And between One Belt, One Route countries and China is more than 50 billion. So you're talking about huge markets here, right? And if you look at, you draw a 1,000 kilometer distance radius, you encompass about 10 countries. So there's a huge B2C market. When there's a huge B2C market, then it's up to companies to how to reach these markets. So if you have a good facility in terms of port in this region, then your nodes are being built. So you need to connect them, right? So you have one good port, let's say Baku, you have another good port, Aktau, you have another good port, Tobambashi. So all these are nodes to be connected in these markets. So to facilitate free flow of trade, right? And between them, right, they can go on and redistribute further the goods to reach this huge market that we have here, B2C.
And you mentioned earlier that Baku is actively promoting being a green port.
Yes.
Could you discuss this and also what it's doing to promote not just national and regional development, but also sustainable development?
I think green port is more than a brand that we adopt. To us, green port is a way of doing business because it spells the values of excellence, efficient methods of doing things. We don't want to promote waste. We do not want to pollute the environment, right? We don't want to contaminate the air with pollutive gases. And if you look at all these things, although the port by itself cannot do much, but we want to promote these values in the region so that other ports will follow. We want to have the best, most efficient methods of doing the business. So to say, we call it green logistics, right? But we are putting where the money where our mouth is, because right now we are doing a detailed, with EU's help, technical assistance scheme, to carve out the roadmap towards achieving this so-called green port. Yeah.
And from where we're from London, and London fits into the Belt and Road in a different sort of way with green finance. I don't know, does green finance play any role with the Port of Baku?
I think any sort of systems, whether it's green finance or whether it comes from the World Bank or any other institutions, is good for us if it adds value to the things that we're doing in the port.
And just to broaden it out a little bit, what makes Azerbaijan as a country the best logistics and transportation hub in the region?
Well, that is a to-be question. Okay, we're in the process, or we aspire to be the best. But at the same time, we are both a competitor as well as a partner to ports in the region. Okay, we are a competitor in terms we want to attract those industries with the most value to us. Okay, and then when we connect the dots, right, some other parts of the supply chain will be in other ports that they need to connect to produce the final merchandise goods to the market. Okay, so it depends on the value proposition that we have. Okay, so in Alat, one of our value propositions that we have in Azerbaijan, right, is that we treat this port and the FTZ, right, as a valuable product or project that people can go get it and say, look, there's some value for us to invest in here. And then on top of that, underlying all this, we would like to promote an attractive and competitive business climate culture that will inspire non-oil investors to come in to invest. As I mentioned before, the climate, the economic stability, and there was very high level support politically from the government for this project. Okay? But in the end, you say, what does this all mean? I mean, all these things, right? What does this all mean? Our value proposition is actually that in the free zone, there are many incentives that a company can take. Exemption from taxes, exemption from custom duties, one-stop shop, a separate arbitration center. All these are modeled. It's not something that is new, but it's modeled and then made to work for us in the future in the Alat Free Trade Zone. Right? This will help us, in our mind, attract investments in many areas, from transit cargo, right, that you do maybe some value-added, special labeling, special packaging, to some more value-added customization of equipment, heavy equipment, to even manufacturing. If we can attract, right, let's say the biggest supermarket, just for example, they are in China, Walmart, to here, to set up shop, to supply to the region, right? So they set up maybe manufacturing of textiles, manufacturing of clothing, to supply to these supermarkets. Then it becomes, they will find that they can reach these new markets more effectively if they set up in a central location, like as in Alat.
And of course now, phase 1 of the port has been completed, but the special economic zone is further down the pipeline. Could you provide any examples of international companies that have expressed interests or some engagement or relationships that you're currently working on, or is this something that will take place in the future?
No, there are already many companies that are interested in, right? Not to call them by name because we're still in the process of discussions with them, but they are oil and gas companies, oil and gas support services companies, they are logistics companies, and between them, there are variations of these companies. They all express interest in, and in fact, they're asking us, when is the zone going to be properly set up? You know, they are waiting for this to happen for many, many years. Yeah.
And there's been a long ongoing dispute between the Caspian Five of the boundaries within the Caspian Sea of how to divide the oil, and I know that there's slowly been progress on this. How do you feel a resolution of this dispute could affect Alat Port, or do you not see it as relevant?
That's exactly why we have this project, so that we have no effect, because we want to diversify away from being extractive resource industry to something more diversified, something more economic value, something more stable. Right?
That answers it very effectively. And of course, and I can't remember off the top of my head when the idea of Alat was conceived, but I know your general director wrote his PhD about the idea of this, and that preceded.
Yes, in his book.
Preceded the idea of the Silk Road, of the Belt Road Economic Belt. Do you then see Alat Port or Port of Baku in general as correlated with the Belt and Road Initiative, or part of it? Is it something that's contributing to it, or is it correlated with it?
Correlation will be the correct word to use. Okay, correlation will be the correct word to use, because in these regions, what I can see now from my own perspective is a lot of things happening in this direction towards the development of One Belt, One Road. Right? China will have its own plans. Azerbaijan, on its own, had its own plans also, but they all point towards the same kind of developmental goals, which is to build up this Silk Road to be economic corridor for the region. Let me give you an example. You have the Southern Gas Corridor to Europe, supplying of gas, right? One plausible kind of other corridor is a wheat corridor from Russia to the from Kazakhstan, the grains passing through Baku, all the way you can connect to Mersin, and you reach those countries that require this food. World population growth is growing. They need more food, and this is one way of reaching them, then through the traditional supply routes in the north, which is crowded anyway. Right? So this kind of potentials, first of all, comes about by recognizing the need for alternative transport corridor and working on that need to make it happen.
Eugene, I think my 2 cents, this initiative, or board initiative, did come to the agenda in the winter of 2013. Right? We started to build this port in 2007. Yeah. So it's give you an understanding how we're sensitive in the timing. So we didn't know about a war in advance, obviously, but we knew that there's something happening, right? So that's why the government kind of worked in a proactive manner. So, and started to, as Eugene pointed out correctly, to create this environment which is going to fit very much with this work plan. So all those roads, all those railroads, all those ports, etc.
Yes.
But it was in advance in the plans of government. So to fit to this coming big global project which is called Aborda.
So you found though that now that China has released its overall program that do you now feel part of it, or do you still feel that you are doing your own independent thing that happens to just be correlated with it? I guess, how pro-China are you being with this development?
I think to answer that question is just to say that if you do the right things along the way, you'll be connected to this One Belt, One Route. And we are working with China companies to do the right things, to make it happen.
So at the level of intuition of the record, we understand the dynamism, what it is going, and what can be our supplement to it, what can be our contribution to it. And that's what we do. And it's, as Eugene said, in a very good way, correct way.
Just a couple more questions, if possible, and perhaps
Sure.
there's been a lot of optimism, but on a slightly less optimistic note, what do you see as some of the greatest challenges to Port of Baku in the coming years?
The greatest challenges is to overcome our own mindset in not believing that this can happen, and to go back to the old ways of doing business just by extracting oil and getting quick riches out of it. This one requires effort. Singapore took 30, 40 years to be where it is, right? With a disciplined workforce, good education systems. So it's just not only to create a good port. The other supporting infrastructures must be in place. The other supporting systems must be in place. You must have good institutions to build up the workforce, to support the industries that you're going to attract in the first place. Right? You must have good financial systems to work for you, so that people, when they come in to invest, they can do it freely. Right? So all these things must come in place slowly and gradually. Right? So when things start to happen, you will realize that everybody says, now, hey, things are happening now, I have to go on board. That's when you know your project is a success. Right? That there's a demand for your product, which I mentioned earlier on, which is the port, the free trade zone, all into one, integrated into working together with this One Belt, One Route, that economic corridor.
And you touched on earlier your partnerships with Chinese companies. How do you find in Azerbaijan, with this growing relationship, that perceptions and public awareness has changed towards China in your field of expertise in your industry?
We have been visited by lots of Chinese companies. They sometimes came in and say, "Oh, we have such a good infrastructure in place. We didn't know that you are able to do this and to do that." So this is all part of a program to build up the awareness that we are here ready to do business. And this is the first phase. The second phase is when we fully compile all the new rules and regulations of free trade zone, put it up for the public to view, and then it comes in, and then you find companies coming in and building their own economic niches here to work with other people, and this will slowly build up into critical mass to attract more business into the port.
And what do you think is the single greatest challenge the Belt and Road overall faces in the next 5 years?
Connectivity. To be able to connect seamlessly across borders in all aspects of trade. Right? Borders, customs, having track and trace capability. This will then make it seamless. Right? I like to give this example during the olden days when the Silk Road was thriving. Right? Marco Polo was given a wooden tablet by the Mongol ruler, and he said, with this wooden tablet, you get fast pass through all the checkpoints. Right? So coming back to the 21st century, I would say the wooden tablet is a product of blockchain technology. That you have all your documents, trade documents, so to speak, right? Put it together with all the parties in a smart contract. And this contract will pass through all the corridors because, why? It's checked by the system already. You don't need any external parties to come in and check it again for you and wait 2 hours for clearance. It's there. Even before the cargo arrives, you know it's been cleared already. So you do it by exception then to check. That you know you have some hidden intel somewhere, you have intel, you need to check it because there's something there that will go bang, then you check it. Otherwise you let it go through. Right?
And I may already know the word, but if you were going to sum up the Belt and Road Initiative in one word, what is that word to you?
Seamless connectivity across borders.